What's going on, guys? I wanted to sit and talk with you guys about fantasy football today because I just finished my first and maybe only fantasy draft for a team I'm going to do this year, and it was on super short notice, about as short as you can get. I got a call about 5 minutes before the draft started from one of my friends who said, "Hey, are you going to be doing the draft? We're starting in 5 minutes." I'm like, wait a minute, what draft? Our league is back together? I had no idea that everybody was back together. I assumed there wouldn't be a league and I would have to join some random ones this year to get my fantasy football fix, but no, it's back together. It's a 10-man league, most of the original guys that we had in there, and so I was back with a lot of my friends that I had from high school, and I was really excited that we had the league back together because I missed it last year not having a fantasy football team and I wasn't following anything. I did some drafts in the preseason, but I never followed through controlling any of those teams, and so for the first time we had to do our draft online to get everybody able to do their picks, and I was in there about 2-3 minutes before it started, and in the past I would sometimes write down some names, maybe some sleepers or guys who would be under the radar I wanted to draft, but I had nothing this year, so I just used the board that was on the ESPN website, and I also went on Madden 13 just so I could look at some depth charts quick to see if I was missing anybody that I couldn't remember in my own memory. And so anyways, it's a 10-man league. We did a snake style draft, which means if you draft first in the first round, you'll draft last in the second round, and then first in the third round. So everybody, it's a really good way to draft. I think it's my favorite way to do it, other than auctions are a lot of fun as well. But I had the 7th overall pick. I always get a pretty bad pick. I like having either the first pick or the last pick, just so I can have back-to-back picks every now and then. I can set up plans for how I'm going to do my draft a little bit better than I usually if I had a mid-round pick. So anyways, I was 7th overall, and it started out, I think the first guy was on auto draft, but he had a board set up, and so he was able to go by priority that he picked. And the first overall pick was Ray Rice, actually. Then it goes Aaron Rodgers, Arian Foster, LaShawn McCoy, Maurice Jones-Drew. I think he was on auto draft too, because I don't think he would have taken Maurice Jones-Drew at number 5 overall. And then my friend took Tom Brady before I did, and I'm glad because with my first pick in the draft, I was able to go number 7 overall and take New Orleans quarterback Drew Brees, and then my friend after that took Calvin Johnson, then Cam Newton went, and Larry Fitzgerald. So I was debating with that first pick going with Drew Brees or Calvin Johnson, but at the end of the day, I got to go with the quarterback in that situation, and hey, I got to be a little superstitious about the Madden curse. You never know, guys. So I want to go with Brees. He stays healthy. He's going to get his yards. It's a passing team, and so I'm happy with that pick. And then in the second round, I'm going to recap the rest of my picks now, guys. I took Roddy White, who was, I believe, the 4th wide receiver taken. He was after Larry Fitzgerald, Calvin Johnson, and Andre Johnson, and actually Rob Gronkowski went 12th overall in this draft. So I had Roddy White, and then in the third round, I went and took Victor Cruz because my friend before me, he took the pick I actually wanted, which was A.J. Green. I think he's set for a big year this year. He's the #1 target in Cincinnati, and he's just a monster. And so I took Victor Cruz, though he's had a great preseason. I didn't want him to be a one-year wonder, and I've seen a lot of good things from him so far. And if Hakeem Nicks continues his trend of not playing all 16 games in the season, I should reap the benefits of Victor Cruz getting more pass targets than he already gets. Then, in the 4th round, I took Brandon Lloyd after Hakeem Nicks was taken and Julio Jones because I think he's going to get a lot of catches this year, and at least he's going to be the downfield threat because there's a lot of guys that can take catches away from him, like Wes Welker and Rob Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez, but Lloyd's going to be that downfield target, and so I like my chances there, and I've read a lot of good things about him so far in this preseason. Then in the round number 5, I took, I believe, the 2nd tight end taken, which was Vernon Davis. Now, the way I was doing my draft, I was like, all right, I want to go for some running backs, but outside of like LaShawn McCoy, Ray Rice, Arian Foster, I was like, man, who do I actually want? Because Marshawn Lynch and Michael Turner, Steven Jackson, those guys went a little bit earlier in the draft, and so I was like, you know what? I gotta sit on these running backs because I'm gonna get so many better receivers and tight ends that usually my teams are focused on running backs. But this year I really switched it up and went for receivers and a couple of tight ends. So in round 5 I took Vernon Davis right after my friend took Percy Harvin. I was gonna take Vernon Davis either way though because I needed the tight end spot and I knew that Vernon Davis would be one of the top tight ends available and I had friends that I knew would target him. So I took him, and then in round 6 I finally took my first running back, and that is Tampa Bay Buccaneers rookie Doug Martin, who I believe is going to get a lot of playing time this year, a lot of touches, and I'm hoping that he can get me some good fantasy points as he is my #1 running back right now. And then in round 7, I don't know what round people take defenses in, but I figured I had my starting lineup pretty much all picked out for my skill position guys, and so I took the 49ers defense, #1 defense available. I like that defense because they're a low-scoring team, which means they're going to be playing a lot of low-scoring games and probably win most of them, and so the defense should really help me out and give me a lot of fantasy points this year. year. I always have a good defense. I think almost every year before I've had the Ravens defense in my leagues. And so I know that defense is probably going to get a lot of turnovers, a lot of sacks, and not allow too many points, and so I really like that pick, even if it's in the 7th round. And then in round number 8, I went for another skill position player because I already had my whole starting lineup set except for a kicker, and I usually save going for backup quarterbacks and stuff to the very end, and so I went with a guy who I think is going to have a big year, just got a big contract extension in Pittsburgh, and that is Antonio Brown, whom I took 74th overall. I think that's one of my best value picks of the entire draft, especially if Mike Wallace comes back starting off a little bit slow. Then round 9, I took another receiver who I think is going to break out this year, and one of my friends told me that he was targeting him as well in the next round, and that is young Baltimore wide receiver, second-year man, Torrey Smith, and once again, it's just another good value pick, I think. I think he's poised for a big season this year. He's going to be one of the top targets in Baltimore, of course. He has that downfield threat, and hopefully doesn't drop too many deep balls for me this year because I need those touchdowns. Then in round 10, went for another rookie running back. That is David Wilson from the New York Giants, and I'm hoping he takes away some carries from Ahmad Bradshaw, who went pretty early in this draft, actually. Let me check here where he went. He went 17th overall, actually. Wow. Anyways, I took David Wilson, and I'm hoping he has a good season this year as a rookie. Him and Doug Martin. I mean, I took 2 rookies. They're going to be my main tailbacks, and so I got receivers that are going to be picking up a slack, hopefully, because we only have one committed running back slot. We have another flex, I think, and we also have, actually we have 2 flexes, a receiver, and a tight end, so it's not as many starters as this league has had in the past, and so there's still a lot of very good players open on the waiver wire, and at least some guys that you know are going to get a decent amount of playing time. And then in round number 11, I took Detroit wide receiver Titus Young, who had a very strong rookie season, and I want to see him pick up those numbers even more in Season 2 in that pass-happy offense that has pretty much all the running backs injured. And, yeah, just throw the ball to my boy Titus Young here, please, Stafford. And then round 12, I took my worst valued pick, I would say, but I don't care because when you look at kickers, I don't even care about the projections at all. I just look at the team that they're on and if they're a high-accuracy kicker, because how do you project field goals and extra points? I don't know. I've always just gone for a guy who I know is going to be on a high-scoring team, but this year I changed it up. I just went for a guy who I think is going to kick a lot of field goals, although I'm hoping he